Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fulfilling Career Podcast here on the Her Career Doctor YouTube channel. If you have been job searching and you have been staying open to any opportunity because you think it would increase your job options, then today's episode is for you because I'm talking all about why staying open to any opportunity is actually holding you back in your job search, leading to more ghostings and more rejections, and what you should do instead. So if that sounds like the kind of information that will help you in your career right now, then stick around, listen to the full episode, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Hi, if this is your first time here, I'm Dr. 𝙁𝙤𝙣 𝙔𝙤𝙪𝙧. I'm a career counselor and coach, and I help women who are unhappy at work get super clear about who they are so they can exit soul-sucking jobs and secure aligned jobs with significant salary increases. Let's get into today's episode. If you want to secure an aligned job this year, you have got to stop staying open to any opportunity that comes your way. Now, let's start by what do I mean by aligned job? So after last week's episode, I went back and I wanted to really be clear about what I mean by aligned job. And so I put together a definition. I brainstormed what I was really trying to communicate with that idea of an aligned job. And I put together a definition that I'm going to read to you. An aligned job isn't just any job you can tolerate. An aligned job is a career opportunity that is deeply aligned with your non-negotiable values, allows you to thrive in your zone of genius, and harnesses your high power skills, all while providing compensation that reflects your contributions and value add to an organization while supporting your ideal lifestyle. That's what I mean by aligned job. And if you're trying to secure one of those this year, so maybe the job you're in right now is no longer aligned, it's making you unhappy and miserable, and you are committed to changing your career situation, and you are actively job searching to try to secure that aligned role, you've got to stop staying open. I can't tell you how often I've heard women say that phrase, you know what, I'm just open to anything, right? I'll ask what kind of role are you looking for? And it's like, I'm open to anything that comes my way. First, I like to say, girl, you are not a book. What you staying open for? Close yourself. And I say that tongue in cheek, but I actually really mean it. Staying open usually happens when you have been working for, I've noticed, about 8 or more years. And over that time, you've developed multiple skills. Or when you're just a multi-passionate person and you know that you can do anything, you know that you can probably be really successful doing anything. And so you go into your job search and your thought is, I'm staying open. And you think that if you stay open, it then increases the net, or it allows you to cast a wider net to increase the number of opportunities that are coming your way. Well, the first thing I want you to recognize is that job search math is not regular math. More applications doesn't lead to more opportunities. In fact, more applications just leads to you getting ghosted, feeling more frustrated, and feeling more discouraged in your job search. Staying open is not helpful for you. It's not helpful for the recruiters. It's not helpful for hiring managers. So let's get into that some more today. The first problem with staying open is that it leads to you wasting time and energy. When you are open to any opportunity that comes your way, what you're likely doing is you're up at 2 a.m., you're scrolling LinkedIn, trying to find jobs that you can do. And then when you see one, you go and you quickly hack your resume to try to make it fit the role you're applying for. You quickly tweak your cover letter, and then you submit your application. At the very least, I hope that's what you're doing and that you're not just clicking the easy apply button on LinkedIn, because that's a big no. Don't do that ever, 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 ever. Don't click that button. It doesn't help you. But even if what you're doing is quickly hacking your resume and your cover letter to try to fit for the job and you apply, what that does is it causes to you expending a ton more energy and wasting a lot more time because you're doing repetitive work and usually it's not leading anywhere. You're doing this work to hack your resume, to hack your cover letter, and all it does is it leads to you applying to hundreds of jobs to never hear back. And that's a guarantee recipe for overwhelm and frustration in your job search. It also wastes your time and energy because now you're researching a bunch of different roles to try to see if it's a fit, to try to figure out what to put on your resume, or your cover letter if you're writing one. And so because you're researching different roles, different industries, different companies, it's a lot of information in your head. And you might be coming across conflicted information. You might be coming across different types of roles that has you putting on different skill sets in terms of the hats that you're wearing. You have to put on your client manager skill set, and then your marketing skill set, and then your data analysis hat. Like you have to keep task switching in your brain to figure out how you're going to position yourself for that role. That's stressful. Like constantly researching multiple different roles and figuring out how to position yourself for those different roles just leads to you feeling more stressed in your job search. A perfect example of this was a client I worked with a few years ago, Sarah. Sarah was someone who, before she worked with me, and these were her words, she said she had FOMO in her job search. Really, that's how she described it. And because she had FOMO, she would be out here looking at all these different jobs. And then every time she would see a job she thought she could do, she would go quickly hack her resume, apply to it. And she was not getting interviews. She wasn't hearing back. And she just felt like she was on this constant roller coaster of job searching where she would see an opportunity, get excited, apply to it, be still sort of excited, but a bit drained from hacking her resume, and then not hear back and get discouraged and repeat the cycle over and over again. It didn't lead anywhere. And the problem with this, or the reason why this is happening, is that when you're staying open, that means that anything that you have, even a small inkling that you can do, becomes a viable option for you, which means in any given day, you can find yourself trying to apply to 5 different jobs in one day. That's a lot of information to try to process, to try to position your skill sets for, and to try to speak to your ability to do the job. It's just too much, and it never leads to success. Not to mention, staying open usually just leads to you getting ghosted more often by organizations and getting rejected more often by organizations. So when you are trying to apply to any job that you think you can do, it makes it harder for you to be targeted and specific when trying to market yourself for that role or those roles on your resume, on your cover letter, on your LinkedIn profile. If you are open, if you're saying you're open to 5 different jobs, okay, let's say you're thinking, you know what, I can do client success management, I can do marketing, I can do data analysis, I can also do program management. Let's just stick with those 4. So now you're trying to position your experiences and your skills for these 4 different jobs. If you're doing what I said earlier, which is you're scrolling, you find a job, you quickly hack your resume, you submit it for application, then you're not taking time to use specific keywords on your marketing materials. You're not taking time to be detailed in how your skill set and your experiences position you as the best candidate for the job that you're applying for. You're not taking time to make it easy and plain for recruiters and hiring managers to see that you are the best candidate for that job. Because you're going so fast and it's just any job, apply, you're not being detailed in your application, which makes it easier for recruiters to ignore your application, which is when you get ghosted, or to just reject it outright. Also, it's harder for you to share your unique value proposition when you're open to multiple jobs. What happens is that in your job search, your value proposition becomes unclear because you don't have a focused message that you're communicating across all your job search marketing materials. When recruiters see your application come through, they go to look at your LinkedIn profile, but it's saying something different from what they saw on your resume. And so now they're confused. They're wondering, can this person actually do the job? Are they the right fit for this job? Should I hire them? And they're most likely going to move on. Okay, I said this in the last episode, recruiters are sifting through literally hundreds of applications for any given job that they are in charge of. And so if they have to do guesswork to try to figure out if you can do the job, best believe they're moving on, and they're moving on to the candidate who has made it super clear how and why they are the ideal candidate for the role that you're both applying for. And so when there isn't alignment and clear messaging across all your job search marketing materials, you don't stand out. You don't stand out in the pool and the sea of other applicants that are applying for the job. And finally, the last problem with staying open to any opportunity that can lead to you getting ghosted is that you're not passionate about anything. There is no way, you cannot convince me that you are truly interested in and truly passionate about 4 different roles. It doesn't know. Maximum 2. When I work with my clients in my program or in my one-on-one coaching, I don't let them apply to more than 2 roles at the maximum, because in every season of your life, there are going to be specific things that you're interested in, specific areas that you want to have impact in, specific ways you want to use your career to reflect yourself in the world. If you are one person and you are clear on who you are in this season of your life, so you're clear on your values, you're clear on your interests, you're clear on your skills, it's highly doubtful that you're truly highly interested in more than 2 jobs maximum. Or if I go back to my definition of what an aligned job is, it is really doubtful that there are more than 2 jobs that are quite very aligned with who you are in this season of your life. Other things might be peripherally aligned, but we're looking for ideal alignment that also intersects with ideal compensation. And so if you're applying to 4 or 5 different types of jobs, at this point, you're just trying to take whatever comes your way. You're not passionate about any of them. And guess what? When you're not passionate about what you're applying for, the jobs you're applying for, it comes across. It comes across in your interview process. It comes across on your resume. It comes across in your LinkedIn profile. It comes across when you have regular conversations with recruiters. People can tell when you're not truly interested in the thing that you're applying for. And when you're not passionate and interested, you come across as just lackluster in the process, and it's unlikely that you will move forward in that job search process. So what should you do instead? Well, first, get clarity. If you're staying open to multiple different jobs, then you're not clear about what you want. It is so important that you're clear about what an aligned job is for you before you start applying. You have to be super clear about your non-negotiable values, because those will determine which industries and which companies are most going to be aligned for you. You have to be clear about your zone of genius interest areas, because those will determine which roles and which industries you'll thrive in. And finally, you have to be clear about your high power skills, because those will determine the jobs, the roles that you will be engaged and motivated to do. Notice that I didn't say all your skills, because if you've been working for more than 8 years, you have developed a ton of skills. You have different areas that you can work in, but you want to figure out what are those skills that truly motivate you and excite you when you use them, and then figure out what roles are aligned with all of those. So you have to first start by getting clear about who you are in this season of your life, and then you have to do research. If you have 5 options that you're considering, pause, take a step back, and research each of them. Which of these 5 roles are actually truly aligned with your values, your interest, and your skills in this season of your life? I keep using that phrase because your values, interests, and skills will change across different seasons of your life. And so you have to pause and get clear what is going to be most aligned with who you are right now, because that is the role that you're going to want to prioritize. And sometimes, I know in the past, I've had women ask me, okay, what if my aligned or fulfilling job isn't paying what I want it to pay? I've gotten that question multiple times, and my answer never changes. If a job is not paying what you desire to be paid, it's not an aligned job. It's just not aligned. For a job to be aligned, it has to also provide you with compensation that is aligned with your value add and supports your ideal lifestyle. People like to say things like, money can't buy happiness, don't prioritize money, which, mind you, correct, don't prioritize money in your career. But let's be real. You got bills to pay, you got trips to go on, you got food to buy, you need money. And the fact of life is, if you're not making the amount that you need to support your lifestyle, you're going to start to resent your job. And so let's not lie, let's not steal, let's not tease ourselves or lie to ourselves. The compensation matters, especially if you're a woman and a Black or brown woman, because we already know that as women, you're getting paid less than men who are doing similar jobs, not to mention that gap increases drastically for women from racially minoritized backgrounds. And so when you are doing work and you start to realize that you're being underpaid, it can lead to a lot of resentment for your company, for yourself, and for your industry as a whole. So it's important that you recognize that if a role is not compensating you what you feel is fair and aligned compensation, then it's not aligned, it's not fulfilling. Okay, I just wanted to put that out there. So once you have clarity about your values, your interests, and skills, you now want to build an ideal career profile. Pretty much, you want to paint a picture of what ideal work looks like for you. You want to map out what is your ideal company environment, what is your ideal manager or who is your ideal manager, I should say? What does your ideal team look like? What are your ideal work tasks? What is ideal compensation? If you're commuting, what is your ideal commute? What does your ideal work environment look like? Sit down and paint a clear picture of what your fulfilling career looks like. And that's what I call an ideal career profile. And usually when I work with clients in my private one-on-one coaching, I help clients do this, right? We'll sit down, we'll get super clear about who you are, and then take the 4 or 5 jobs that you're considering and audit them based on information about yourself to pick the one job that you need to focus on. And so once we pick that one job, it makes it easier for you to now market yourself for that role. And so as I share that, if that sounds like the kind of support that you're looking for in your career right now, so if you've been job searching and you've been staying open to jobs because you think you can do anything and you have a hard time narrowing those options down, you're definitely going to want to check out my private one-on-one career coaching off service, because during a VIP 3-hour session, we can do that audit together. We'll take those 3 to 5 options, really look at your skills, your values, your interests, and say, okay, which of these 3 makes the most sense for you to focus on? Once we clarify that in the first third of our session together, we'll pull up a job posting. We're going to audit the job posting and really pull out and extract, okay, what is the language? What are the keywords that you need to be focused on that really market your skills and your experiences for this job? And how will you write this on your resume? How will you write it on your LinkedIn profile? And how will you tell this story in interviews? So at the end of this 3-hour VIP session, you will leave with a detailed plan, a step-by-step plan for your job search, a detailed plan that will help you secure your aligned job with a major salary increase. So you can go to privatecareercoaching.com to learn more about how to book a 3-hour VIP session. Again, that link is privatecareercoaching.com. The link is in the description below. It's in the show notes for this podcast episode. You can check that out. And on that page, you'll see that you can book a complimentary 30-minute call with me. So on the call, we can talk a bit more about where are you stuck in your job search? Why are you staying open? And then I'll map out what we'll do in a VIP session, and then we can discuss next steps. Okay. So once you have built your ideal career profile, then you can actually start job searching. And what this does for you is that when you've taken your list of 4 or 5 different jobs you're staying open to, you've looked at, okay, which of these actually makes sense based on what you know about yourself. And now you know what job to focus on. And every time you look at a role, you're going to compare it to your ideal career profile. You're going to build out and map out, okay, I'm looking at this job description. Does it make sense? When I go research the company, does the culture sound like it makes sense? When I talk to people about the job, is it aligned? You now have parameters that you'll use to audit roles before you apply to any of those roles. And when you do this, when you go into your job search, being intentional, and I call this radical focus. When you have radical focus about the one job that you're trying to secure, a few things start happening. One, you communicate so much clearer because you know what you're speaking to on your resume, on your cover letter, on your LinkedIn profile. When you have networking conversations, you know the one job that you're trying to secure. And so you're so much more clearer and targeted in marketing yourself for that role. 2, you know how to ask people for support. Now you're not just telling people, hey, if you see any job, can you recommend me? I'm open to anything. It's like, no, if you see a program management role in the healthcare industry, my hands are up. That's the kind of role I'm trying to secure. Please send it my way. Now you have made it super easy for people to know how to help you in your job search. And 3, you're not going to be randomly hacking your resume every time you see a job that fits. Because guess what? The one resume you've built out already markets you well for that job. And because you're applying to the same job, just maybe in a few different industries or a few different companies, all you're going to do is look and see, are they using a different word for the same thing? And then you're just doing a quick search and replace on your resume because, oh, I wrote clients on my resume, but in this job, they called it customer. I'm just going to change it to customer real quick. But the essence of which skills you're highlighting, the essence of which accomplishments you're putting at the forefront on your resume, that doesn't change because you're applying to essentially the same job. So no more FOMO in your job search, randomly applying to jobs at 2 a.m., hacking your resume, submitting it only to get ghosted. This time you become intentional in the process. And I think back to Sarah, who I mentioned earlier, when she started doing this, because this is something we did together, she had a list of like 5 jobs she was trying to apply to. We narrowed it down to one. When we started working together, she applied to no more than, I want to say, 6 jobs, secured at least 2 to 3 interviews. And I remember her saying that at the end of our time working together, what she realized was once she became more intentional, she started to separate her worth from the job search. She started to put herself first, her desires first, and then find jobs that fit with her, as opposed to tying her worth to jobs and trying to hack her resume to fit. It allowed her to see that she had what she needed to be successful in pretty much any job as long as she knew what that job was. And so by the time we were done working together, Sarah was able to secure an aligned role and increase her salary by $55,000. That is the massive shift that can come when you start becoming intentional and develop radical focus in your job search. So if you've been staying open to any job, it's time for you to close up, okay? Stop staying open and focus in. What is the aligned job that you're trying to secure? Now, before I wrap up, there are 2 mindset shifts that you're going to have to make to adopt this approach. And these are things that I've seen come up when I've worked with women in my one-on-one coaching. We've had to talk through this. The first is having a scarcity mindset in your job search. The scarcity mindset is this belief that there aren't enough jobs out there for you, that there aren't enough resources really to get your goals. And so when you hear this idea of stop staying open, there's a part of you that might be thinking, okay, if I stop staying open, there aren't going to be enough jobs for me to apply to. Remember, I told you, Sarah only applied to 6 jobs to secure an aligned role. I remember before I secured the job I'm in now, when I was on my most recent job search, I only applied to 10 jobs. I applied to 10 jobs. Of those 10 jobs, I got 6 interviews and at least, I want to say 3 job offers. I probably would have gotten more job offers, but once I accepted one offer, I said no to the others. There aren't 100 jobs out there that you need to be applying to if you're being intentional. If you have radical focus and you're being intentional, you ideally, yes, are applying to fewer jobs. And so that scarcity mindset that's saying there aren't enough jobs is because you think the more jobs you apply to, the more interviews and offers you get. But again, I repeat, job search math is not regular math. You don't need to be applying to hundreds of jobs to secure an aligned job with a salary increase. In fact, applying to hundreds of jobs just burns you out in the job search process. The second mindset shift you're going to have to work through, I should say, is the idea of not wanting to be too picky. Girl, what's wrong with being picky? This is your job we're talking about. The place where you're going to be spending 40 hours of your week at minimum every single day. If you are not picky with this decision, what decision are you going to be picky with? You need to be picky. That is exactly what it means to have radical focus and be intentional in your job search. It means that you get to be picky and intentional about where you end up, because we know that the place where you spend most of your waking hours is dramatically going to impact your physical health, your mental health, your relationships. You don't want to just pick any old job that's going to stress you out, burn you out, cause you to gain weight, lose weight, impact your relationships. No. You want to be picky. Be picky in your job search. There is nothing wrong with being picky. And so if you've had that fear that I don't want to be too picky, there's a chance that you're thinking that because you're struggling with the scarcity mindset. You don't think there are enough aligned jobs out there for you to get into. And so it's so important that you make that shift for yourself as you become more intentional in your job search. So again, as you've been listening, if this is really resonating with you and you're like, I've been staying open. Well, first, let me say, sis, close yourself up. Stop staying open. You're not a book. But second, you should definitely look into booking a 3-hour VIP one-on-one career coaching session with me. Go to privatecareercoaching.com. Again, that link is privatecareercoaching.com. And in a 3-hour VIP session, what we'll do is we're going to audit the jobs you've been applying to, figure out which one, maximum 2, is most aligned with your skills, your values, and your interest. And then we will look at a job description and create what I call your marketing statements that really position your skills and your accomplishments for that specific job that you're trying to apply for, using the language of that job or that industry to really position you as the ideal candidate. And then I'll show you during our session, I'll show you how you're going to use those statements to update your resume. We'll work on your resume together in that session. Then I'll show you how you can update your LinkedIn, and you'll get a LinkedIn optimized checklist for you to update your profile. And then you will leave with a detailed step-by-step plan to help you secure an aligned job with a salary increase in your job search. So this 1 3-hour session is going to move you months ahead in your job search timeline to help you secure an aligned job with a salary increase. So again, go to privatecareercoaching.com to book a complimentary 30-minute call with me. On that call, we'll talk and make sure that this is the right way for you to get support in your career. And if it is, we'll discuss next steps for how we can work together. So once you do this, there's no more applying to hundreds of jobs only to get ghosted. This will help you become so much more confident in talking about yourself and your experiences in your job search so you can secure that aligned job with a salary increase. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you found this helpful, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you've been staying open in your job search, as a reminder, it's time to close up, get intentional, develop radical focus in your job search so you can secure an aligned job with a salary increase. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next episode.